Hello everyone, welcome to our first musings of the year. Fifi and Sam here. This is 2023. How's everyone feeling?
It is. Yeah. I think that is
I think
generally
it's kind of more of a whimper than a bang for me personally, as we've been discussing in our little pre-recording chat that we always have. Yeah, I mean, I said it myself in live. I think it was my New Year's Day live actually, that this really isn't New Year. And probably we're not the only ones feeling it energetically, that you're being sort of encouraged the whole time or pushed to be, here we are, resolutions and
new year, new me,
new start and all of that. And it's like, we're in this hemisphere anyway, we're in midwinter. We're still in hibernation period. We're still in, like, within the wheel of the year, the natural cycle. We're in the kind of dead zone. And isn't it indicative of everything they do to us to try and throw us out of whack and to not feel in sync, to have this so-called new year, new beginnings and everything, and this big energetic push when the energy's not actually there. We only have to use our eyes to see everything's kind of shut down, things are in hibernation, everything's kind of in that rest space, and the energy will be slowly building as the light comes back more and more towards spring, which is when we see the buds on the trees, the birds have come back to life in a
spring
different way.
does feel, it feels like a new year then,
Because it is. Yeah, it's like trust your
and again,
senses.
it comes back to that energy, and it comes to all these ways that we've been messed with. The world's been inverted to kind of, tip us all on our asses, really, and
Yeah.
see things the way they're not.
Yeah, and to be out of sync with nature, with our natural cycles. And we were saying, weren't we, that it's like we've been led to believe that we're other, that we're separate. So we view nature and we're all, oh, isn't it wonderful, and this great, but we're like observing it as these outsiders, not that we are part of it. Obviously we're a different kind of species, we're a different kind of animal altogether, but we are still animals, and we're physically comprised of the same ingredients that makes up everything else. And so I think basically, if people are feeling flat and underwhelmed, there's a reason for it, and it's not a failing in yourself. There is a reason that so many people go on this kind of nosedive after Christmas and into New Year, because the energy that you're supposed to be feeling and getting things done, and it's not there. And we're actually going against ourselves, and it can get you on a bit of a downward spiral, actually. And when you have people that are inclined to make resolutions, all those kinds of things, bloody work for most people, and a big reason for that is because the energy's not there, and you're trying to make yourself feel something that you don't.
I actually haven't made any resolutions this year. I normally try and and maybe that is because I've become, increasingly aware of how upside down it all is to be making resolutions and celebrating a new year. Don't get me wrong, I've done the Happy New Year thing and wished everyone a Happy New Year, and I do wish everyone a Happy New Year because we're at the start of
Same.
2023, and in that sense,
Yeah,
it's the start
you
of New
can't
Year.
avoid
But
it, can you?
no, but when I look inside myself, it doesn't really feel like a new year. And yeah, so I've not really made any.
No,
I
mine's
think
just
I think
kind
I
of,
might do the whole spring ritual thing
I find it really,
of kind of welcoming in
yeah.
the new year, and sort of setting more intentions when we get there.
Yeah, I think when you're looking to make, but I mean, look, we can change, we can do whatever we want any day of the year.
Very
It's
true.
up to us, to cut, because there is that element of procrastination and putting things off, and but there's definitely that energetic component where
There is, and
you
it can
feel
be.
more awake and more alive as everything around you is coming to life again. So it's just kind of, yeah, getting back into
It can be
those
beneficial as well
systems.
to have a point of. Yeah, sorry, I think my internet connection's a little bit unsteady. It's been
Uh,
fine while we were chatting before this, but we've come back on to
right.
record and it
Always
keeps stopping and slowing down. So yeah, there's a little bit of.
a lag.
Yeah, but I think it can be beneficial to. I think resolutions in themselves at a point, they can be beneficial. A
Yeah,
kind
of
of
course.
that reflecting on what's been, and identifying, perhaps where you'd like to see improvements, and setting goals and intentions as to
Hmm.
how you'd kind of like to reach those, what you'd like to take forward, and where you sort of would like to see yourself going. I think it can be, beneficial, as I say, to make those goals. But yeah, for now I'm certainly in the same energy of you. Is there's it doesn't, I'm not feeling it. um it does
Yeah,
feel very.
which is supposed to be. This is, I mean, actually, what this is perfect for this time of year here. Obviously, in the southern hemisphere, it's in reverse, but looking at winter, that's the time when you can certainly decide what it is that you want to see change and implement, and all of these things, but the time to actually put them out into the world is when that energy is surging throughout everything, including us. So I think it's always been a time of going within, of hunkering down, of everything's reduced, isn't it? Everything, you just look out there, and that's the thing. Like, trust, when I say trust your eyes, I don't mean trust what they're telling us, but look at nature, things that are true, not their bullshit of like versions of events, but actual things that in nature which they might try and control and twist, but ultimately, no, it's its own thing. Um, and yeah, you just see it reflected back at you. We are of the same energy system, whatever it is you want to call it. And yeah, you can just utilize it really. But I am thinking, I've been a bit scuppered today. I was telling you that I was all like, right, I've got to get back to the gym, because the last couple of weeks has been like, forget it, the run up to Christmas, and then like the days in between, which were just in complete limbo. And I was like, no, I'm not ready to
Limbo
get back.
limbo, someone called it, and I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
that's it. Yeah. Um, but it was like today was going to be the day, and I've twisted my knee, and I don't know how. I think it was literally, there was nothing wrong with it last night. I think it was literally getting out of bed this morning, and I had to somehow get down the stairs with my legs like straight out in front of me. I couldn't bend. It's not as bad now, but I can feel like there's something that I've got tennis elbow as well. And I'm just like, I think I'm being told something here.
Today's my first day of being back in some semblance of routine,
Yeah.
after a couple of weeks of having a very full house, a very busy house, and trying to be, yeah, getting up early, getting the kids ready for school and back off to school. Started a new job yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, so Yeah, I do enjoy routine. I do enjoy
Yeah.
having.
I need a routine, I think. I
I
do
do
kind of
too.
rebel a bit against it because I don't like a bit feeling restricted. It's ridiculous, really. But I do benefit
I
from
do.
having a bit of a routine with
I
stuff.
do. But it wasn't fun this morning.
No, it takes a while to
After
get
two
back
weeks of
into
really
it.
late nights and really like, lazy mornings of getting up late, alarm going off at 6:30 and going, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in that sense, it is sort of the sort of new year, new start in a sense, because it is getting
Hmm.
back into that routine. It's been 7 years since I had a proper job. So I gave up work when I had my daughter and sort of was focusing on being mummy. And obviously
Yeah.
now my youngest is at school. I'm
Mm.
getting back out there, but I've had this had this. I don't know if you know the Tom McDonald song, "Welcome to the System."
I think I do know that
Yeah,
one because there's a
that's been playing in
few.
my head. That's what I
Uh,
sort of feel a little bit like being back in work.
yeah.
And there is this, the last few years I've been very comfortably mainly mixing with people who share my outlook on the world,
Mm.
and sort of re-entering, that I'm reluctant to even say like normal world because
I,
it's not
it's not
it's
normal by any sane standard. It's not. But yeah, it's a bit of a shocker. I mean, I've been quite not cosseted, but even when I was before I lost my job, um, or felt that I knew, I kind of jumped before I was pushed. I had such lovely people I was working with, even though they, they've gone the route and all of that. They knew exactly what I was like from day one. What my, but very open to actually listening as well, and not being judgmental. It just never caught because we just loved each other. We just absolutely loved each other. It's really, I mean, I've moved away now, and life is very different. But
yeah,
it is kind of sad that that kind of side of things is gone. I mean, and who knows how it might have turned out if I'd, well, I couldn't have stayed, to be honest, because of the way things are, and I wasn't going to comply with anything. Um, but yeah, I've been quite fortunate that the friends that I've made over the years that have stuck have been more like-minded with this kind of stuff, I suppose, because it's a foundational worldview, isn't it?
I mean, there is. I wouldn't go so far as to say fear because it's definitely not fear. It's a sense that I'm starting to read more and more, and you may have seen it, about this suggestion that masks and restrictions should be brought
Yes.
back.
I mean, where has
And
that even come from?
the
It's
fear
I
machine is back in
But it's
business.
just like, what? Yeah, I mean, it is madness. There are surveys, but I'm quite glad to see that the majority definitely are like no, because there was one
I
in
mean,
the
it would be
Daily
interesting
Mail,
to see. Yes,
like a
yeah, it'd be
poll, and
interesting
another
to see
one.
how many people would still kind of return to all of that because I think people are a lot more aware than they were. There are certainly a
They are.
subset of society that are still,
Yeah.
completely clueless about the reality of the situation. But
Mm.
I certainly think a lot more people are sort of, at least if they're not awake, certainly more kind of, is this really helping? A kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I mean,
But
it's just, it is literally common sense at this point when
yeah,
you have got a gain. Use your senses. Like, if all these people are getting sick, and we know the real reason that they are, but regardless of whether you understand that or not, clearly it's made no difference. So I don't think they could ever get away with trying to mandate, not in the UK at least. I know it's different
I don't know.
around
I
the
think it's
world, but
incredibly difficult to say.
I mean, maybe it's
Incredibly
wishful
difficult to say.
thinking on my part.
Maybe, But and it is, you know, certainly for me, I have been, as I say, in a nice little comfortable bubble of people who very much feel the same. And obviously my new job is supporting children with disabilities in the school. So if restrictions come back, I will then be put in that position of, you know, kind of standing my ground and fighting my corner. And I've always worked in care and support work, and there was, you know, an element of the last few years where I was sort of quite glad I wasn't working, because, you know, as much as, you know, there's no question that I would take a stand, and I would, you know, I wouldn't be complying, but the energy and the stress and all of that that comes with it, that, you know, the things that, you know, I know my friends that have worked in the NHS and care, and people all over the world have been experiencing that pressure, that coercion, that shaming, that real kind of stress and energy sucking from having to, you know, constantly reassert your position and your reasons why. I don't relish the idea of
It's
having to do that.
it's exhausting. I mean, even within my job, where my boss is so supportive, so supportive. Obviously, I wouldn't wear a mask, and that was fine because it was understood it's not a legal requirement and things like that. And that I wouldn't be having the jab. And but the issue is with the wider community that I was out amongst them, you know, go visiting hospitals, schools. I used to do assemblies in schools and home visits, anything you could think of, where you're actually out mixing with people. And it was just this constant, because this very cultish thing of, have you had your jab? Have you blah, blah, you know, and it's just, you just feel you're constantly having to defend your position. And it's a real issue for some people. They don't want you in their homes then without the mask, or without knowing that you've had and it is very, very draining. And obviously where I was working, you've got the council funding, because it's a charity I worked for, who are very, this is how it's going to be. And the pressure of not wanting, even with like such lovely supportive people, them having to take on my work because people wouldn't have me in their homes or in their schools, or I couldn't go into hospitals. It's like, well, it's just, it made it untenable. So even if you're not being forced out by the people that you're working with, who were really, you know, understanding and supporting, you got that whole other wider influence, you know, and there's kind of no getting away from it. And I probably could have really, I mean, I did stand my ground, I never caved into anything, but I could have ended up in a tribunal or things like that. But how unpleasant. And for my team, you know, I didn't want them to be having to shoulder the burden of me not being allowed to do my job. And so it was that kind of, we're just going to have to part ways. It can't work. But I mean, it's terrible, really, you know, it just, to be in that situation in the first place. And I mean, so much worse for people who are really bullied and coerced and threatened. I mean, it's just
Yeah. And I can kind of feel it in the air, you know, that they're, I mean, I don't know how it'll go. I suppose we can only be optimistic that more of the public will just be like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is kind of a bit of the sword of Damocles, isn't it, hanging? You're not sure, like, is it
and there is a constant barrage of health-based fear porn, just constantly. And I don't know whether it's more because I'm a parent that there is so much of it, kind of, you know, it is
I think
being
they're
very much.
ramping it up. I do. I think with every passing week almost, there's something more. But again, it's actually something to feel really positive about. If you can look beyond why are they having to push so hard? It's only
That's
out of
true.
desperation.
That's
It is,
true.
otherwise it would have all worked already. They would have got exactly what they need, what they want. There would be no need to continue. And yet, what do we see? The hysteria and just the madness of it all, the insanity. It's like it is unraveling. And of course, they'll keep going. But whenever you do see just how mental it is, and it can be really overwhelming, just remember they're just desperately trying to keep this whole thing going, and it's pressure the whole time. Once you've actually seen through it, so those of us who have either kind of known from the beginning and have stood staunch in our position, or maybe it's taken a bit longer, but now, you know, it's like it's so obvious. It doesn't matter what they throw at you, because you know it's bullshit. You just know, don't you? There's nothing that's gonna, oh, okay, well, all of that was a load of crap, but this thing, no, you know that everything they do is bullshit. It's absolute fabrication, no matter how. And actually, it becomes more apparent the more outlandish. It's actually laughable. But yeah, that doesn't stop it having an effect on how you're living your life when you have got people that are going along with it, and so on and so forth. But the more insane things get, it's reflective of their insanity, if
It's
nothing
true.
else, isn't it?
It's true. We've been having little chats on our local stand group on Telegram, and people trying to guess what's going to happen this year, and there's all kinds of, and I think it's going to be a year full of just bombardment of crazy,
Yeah,
but
I do. I think it has to be, like, looking at the way things have been and what they're aiming for. It has to be ramped up. They can't afford to ease off now. Well, they've never been able to. So I think, yeah, it still comes down to how we process it, I guess, how we internalize, how we deal with the fear that comes up. And it's what I talk about most of all, is well, we both do, is just transmuting that fear, that energy which they thrive on, but they're absolutely dependent on. Without it, none of this happens. It's just gone, because every decision, every time someone agrees and they're virtue signaling, whatever it is, their reasons, there's fear at the heart of it every time. It's like this little nugget. So with the virtue signal, it's fear of being judged, it's fear of being ousted, of not being viewed in a certain way. Or if it's, oh my god, well, I might lose this if I don't do that, it's fear. It's always fear that's behind this compliance, this consent, you know, the going along with all of it. It's always fear. You remove that, there's nothing, no one would do anything to help assist this progress. It would just be, no, what? Because there's nothing there to prompt you into doing these insane things. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's very multi-layered, you know, as with everything, but in the end, it is literally fear. That's it. And so that's why we see things ramped up and ramped up, increase the fear. It's like they're trying to stoke the fires. They can't afford to let them start dimming down. And
Yes, I talk a lot about hope, and for me, that's my way out of fear. Um, is seeing that hope, that light at the end of the tunnel, and that actually, for me, a lot of that. We talk about going within, and of course, there's a part of it, but a lot of it is looking around and seeing so many other very brave, very determined, committed, loving people
yeah,
that are there. And I just think with so many of us, I don't see how we can fail, because
no,
we're growing in
not in the
numbers all the
end.
time. And as you say, the more it's ramped up, the more insane it gets, the more transparent it becomes. And so, the more people kind of shift over to this place of just no, just I'm not going to live in fear anymore. I don't trust what you have to say. Um, and I kind of think, the only way we can go is kind of up, however more crazy it gets, as I say, the more transparent it becomes, and the more people kind of step out of that fear and into that space of empowerment. And
And
it
it's
does
going to
open.
be hard one for some, I think, as it is that kind of separating the wheat from the chaff thing again, which, sounds a bit harsh, but, when you are absolutely resolute and you just cannot bring yourself to give in to fit, no matter how strong, because you just, for me personally, with all of this, I couldn't look myself in the eye if I had put on a mask, if I, with all the pressure and stuff. It's like, for me, it was far more worth all the shaming and the, all of that, the nonsense, because for me it's my self-respect at stake. And so no matter what happens, and it doesn't matter how terrified, I mean, it could be real visceral fear of like you're going to lose your life or something. I think that's when there's something bigger within you that I can't even lay claim to, in a sense. It's just something there. It's not, oh, I'm so wonderful that I would just never give in to fear. I could be shitting myself, but there's something in me that just will not allow. There's something more important. And I think that's when you find that people who have got a bit more of a spiritual leaning, or just an awareness of there's much, much more to life and existence and everything than this little body that needs to be protected at all costs. And I think for some of us, and I don't like exclude myself, and it could be that you absolutely have to face down where it is that, right, well, this is it, this is the hill that you choose to die on. And when there's no getting away from it, that's when the fear actually goes. It's reached a pitch, there's nowhere to go, and there's that huge surrender and release, which a lot of the time you can't actually. We do all this work on ourselves and try, but until you're, for a lot of people, until you're actually faced with it and there's no escape, that's the moment, that's when the break occurs. And I think that's what we might, I'm not being like a doomsayer, or, because ultimately it's that's the thing that moves us on, is that's when you see through the fear and it's got no grip on you anymore, because there's an acceptance of, well, I can't give in to this, so there you go. And that's when every awaken, I mean, truly awakened being has said, on the whole, they've been absolutely faced with ultimate fear, and then they've realized that they've moved beyond it, and then untouchable, free, absolutely in their natural state of being. And it was only ever in the mind, this fear. It's only
It's a
ever in
powerful
the
thing, though, the
mind.
mind, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it dictates. Mind precedes all, as Buddha said, something along those lines. And it is, everything is coming from the mind. It's all arising in mind, including these bodies, seemingly 3D objects, and everything. And when that's kind of realized, so I do think there's going to be backs against the wall, and that's when you see what people are made of.
Yeah, and
But
we've said it before, and I still think we need those backs against the wall moments
yeah,
for people to find their voice.
yeah.
I think without your back against the wall, there's a lot of people that kind of just poodle along without.
Well, it's complacency, isn't it? And we're all guilty of it. A lot of the time we don't have that growth until we're really like prodded it, because we want our comfort. We want the
Yeah.
known. We want to have everything, all nice and neatly laid out, and no surprises that we wouldn't want. We've got this control we're constantly seeking to cling on to. And when that's kind of out the window, but that's when this stuff comes out that is beyond the little me. That's when it's out there. That's when it's let loose. And I've been watching a lot of things lately that just the creativity of human beings is absolutely staggering. The things that we're capable of, just the art that people make,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's endless, and there's no way that can be extinguished. That creative force is what's created everything. Whether they've tried to manipulate, well, they have, whether it's been manipulated, and whatever it is they do, it's just this force that I see things like that, and that gives me hope. The hope, it's like there's no way, whatever situation we're put into, we find, or we allow, really, or find ourselves in, there is this way. We will always come up with a way out, a
Yeah.
way round. Every time, that is the natural state of things, and all they can try and do is to steer and yeah, manipulate, but it can't actually ever be extinguished. And when the backs are against the walls, that's when you see it really having to come out. There can't be that resting on your laurels and waiting for someone else to do it. It's right, okay, now. And a lot of people do actually thrive under a bit of pressure,
Yeah.
because we've been kind of, well, we've been conditioned, haven't we, into becoming really quite indolent and lazy a lot of the time, and yeah, everything's laid on, and there's that appeal, isn't there? But it goes against our nature. So it's a weird one, isn't it? There's this kind, for me personally, it's like this, holy shit, we're gonna be, my God, we're gonna be tested, we're gonna be, but on the other side of that is this tremendous, we'll show you who's fucking boss here. And it's not
Yeah, I
evil.
think I'm very much in the same.
It's not evil when good, that is it. You feel it though, don't you? It's like they don't have a hope. They do not have a chance. They really don't. Because one person in their power, it's like a force field. I mean, these amazing beings that have walked before us, that one, just one, the power of one and we're moving into a time where it's way more than one. It's happening, this rising of consciousness. They can't stop it, but it's just that holding the line and getting, being brave and moving through that fear as it's coming in waves. And it is a constant sort of process, but I do feel it's not even optimism or positivity, it's just a knowing.
I do, yeah, no, I agree. It's all heading in the right direction. You know, whatever happens, whatever's thrown at us, it's we are as a collective heading in the right direction, and I think ultimately, it's all going to be all right.
Yeah, we're unstoppable. We are unstoppable.
Yeah.
So.
Except for now, where we're running out of time, which means
now we have to stop. Yeah, so 2023.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Good times are coming.
Oh, they are, and they're already here. They're always here.
Oh, sorry, good things are coming.
Oh, good things and good times, all good
Yeah.
stuff. And it's
Got
all
me for my
already
friends for
there.
Christmas.
It's
It's lovely.
lovely. Yeah. Yeah, we
So,
just need to choose what you focus on as well, and don't get so overly focused on the negative, seemingly negative, and all of that stuff. There's always got to be that balance.
yes.
So there we go. Any last words? That sounds very final, doesn't it?
No, only sending love and best wishes to the collective.
Yeah, as always. Yeah. And
yeah,
well, have a good rest of the week, everyone. And yeah, we'll catch you next week. I'll speak to you soon. Lots of love.